All right. Well, we appreciate the opportunity to be here this week and do these demos the last couple of days. It's been a lot of fun. We don't think we ever give enough credit to Dean and Todd and now Jack and getting all this set up. This is no small feat. Y'all have been here over a week, I think, getting this all set up and done. And Todd sent me a picture, 89 loads of dirt or something like that y'all put in here. So NCBA and Todd and all them have done a great job of pulling this together. And we're just the dancing chickens that come in and get to sit out here in front of everybody. But we really do appreciate what y'all do and have done for a long time. So it's a good crew and we enjoyed it a lot. We've kind of built up a lot of things in the last couple of days, and some of you may not have been to the previous sessions, but this is kind of a good culmination of what we talk about in building flow into cattle, because everything we talk about is getting cattle to work for us and get to work for us very smoothly but pretty quick. Everybody likes to get through the processing aspect of this with good speed, and that's one thing you hear a lot of people say, well, it slows you down too much. No, it doesn't. When you build flow into cattle and get cattle working for you, they flow through here like butter, and it just may seem a little slower because you're not having to ram and jam and scream and holler and hot shot and do a lot of things we see on some places. So building that flow is important. And part of how we do that is getting the cattle to work, but then also in how we work our equipment once we do that. And it was interesting in the chute demos, they bring one animal, then they bring another, and sometimes they balk a little bit coming in there. And so that's something we'll talk about. How do we create that draw and that flow and keep that coming through a system? All that starts by how we handle cattle out here, getting them comfortable to come by us and do the things we ask them to do. These have some, everything in here has a little different button to it. We discovered one of them's got a real sensitive button. A couple of them have some buttons that are a little bit different, and then the big Brangus heifers, they don't really care. They're just here for the day. So trying to get all of them to work in the same setting. Most of the time your cow herd will kind of work similar as you go through the process. But when these commingled cattle come in, sometimes it's best to spend a little time like we did in one of the sessions on settling cattle and placing cattle and doing those kind of things to get them to where they work for you when you first get them. And so if you do that when you first start working with these cattle, then it gets easier to do all the other things we're going to talk about doing today. But getting the flow is to create that draw and come by. We hadn't talked about the different types of pressure, but you can draw cattle to you and through a system very easily. And in part, sometimes we get too many people around the chute, and I talked about that a little bit in the chute side presentation I did, but try not to have people that are distracting from what you're trying to do and get the cattle where they know who to listen to and be in the right position to do that. We'll demonstrate that as we get to the end of this. Curt, you want to weigh in before we start?
I think we'll just get going.
Okay.
They look, the cattle after our session, the last session, and the cattle went right over there and got put through the chute deal, and now they're come back, and so they might be the same or they might not be quite the same, so we might mess them just a little bit and get ready, and then we'll see. What we want to be able to do, get them to do, is be able to take our pressure out here in this bigger pasture or this bigger pen before we take them into the smaller pen. And that's the thing we've got to, we don't know that now because we had them pretty good before, but now after doing the other demonstration, maybe that's all gone. So you never take for granted what your cattle are. You're always, just like a horse, before you step on, you kind of figure out what they are, and then you get them ready, and then you go from where they're at. Not where you think they should be, but where they're at. Same thing with our cattle, I think.
Yeah, as you're gathering cattle, you get a pretty good read on what their attitude might be for the day or what past experience might have changed them a little bit. And some of you may work in areas where predators may actually be an issue, and that'll change the whole dynamic of that. So you got to really be able to work through that and get the cattle calmed down and get their mind back on their body, as Curt says, to get them where they're thinking about what we're trying to do.
Yep, good.
All right, I'll just bring them out of the corner and you send them wherever you want to. Like this heifer, she's done with us. Just lick my butt and stay right here. Oh, hello, girl. I try not to scare them too much. Wait just a minute and let them either get up or get moving. These cattle have gotten very comfortable in any part of this pen, but once they all get going, then I can speed this side of it up, come out of this corner, and Curt will pick them up, and he can go wherever he needs to. I'll keep sending cattle to him, or he can draw them around the corner, or we'll put them in another corner, wherever he wants to go with them.
Let's just stick them in that corner.
Now that's where I've got to stop pushing on this side to let him kind of bring them back to that corner. My job now is to not let him turn back over here and kind of support him. As he steps up, I've got to step over to fill in this hole. And once they kind of get doing what you need to, just let them take the pressure off and let them stand there. I'm going to push on this heifer's eye and try to send her into the corner. And when I do, she's going to turn everything out. They won't stop, smell of things. I'm going to have to go ahead and put some pressure on them, but we already started our flow out of the corner. They're getting a little tired of this, so they're not actually flowing real fast, which is fine too. We want to make sure they go where they want to, but once again, just back and forth. We'll put them over there on the water bucket if we need to. I don't know how many of you were here when we first started these heifers, but the little heifer right in front of me, the white in her head, if we were to push on her this much earlier in this process, she would just run at you. So it's really been fun to watch her and see what she'll do and how she's responding. Horseback, she's fine now. Now she gets a little up in her ears when you get on foot, but once again, she's much better than she was to start with.
Stick back there in the corner. And I think it's a good idea if you got a set of cows or yearlings that you're going to have for the summer, or cows you can have forever, replacing heifers. I think you ought to be able to think of them just like a saddle horse. You ought to be able to pick them up and walk them somewhere, put them in the corner, get them to stop. And then when you ask them to go again, they should go. And stop them. You should be able to turn them to you, or should turn them away from you. And then when you get that going, you got cattle handled. And you can put them anywhere. And one of the great sayings in the horse world by Tom Norris, if you read his book, it said, when you ride your horse, it feels like you ought to be able to ride him down a gopher hole or up a telephone pole. You wouldn't ever ask him to do it, but he should feel that way. And I think that's, when we're talking about cattle, sometimes we're just kind of getting them wherever we kind of hope we can. And that's where we get precise the cattle and get them where you can place them somewhere and flow them out of there. Then they're just like a nice horse or whatever. So that's
go back behind the chute.
Sure, let's do that.
Now these cattle really do lock in on people movement, so we got to break that loose. But that's a very good example of how distracting movement can be to cattle, and you just got to give them a little bit of time to break loose of that. This poor old calf just found the water bucket. Now earlier she'd have been gone. That's kind of fun to watch how she's now soft enough to, I'll let you back in a minute, but hopefully to go on up in there. She doesn't take a lot of pressure well, and that's kind of me. I kind of pushed on her. Can't really push on this side without her wanting to go that way. But if she has a little time, she'll figure out how to work herself up in there. It's one of those you really can't force a lot of issues until she gets placed somewhere and kind of has some people around her or some cattle around her.
I think they're working pretty nice.
Much better than it was when we started.
Yeah. Good.
Was anybody here in the first session we started working these? A couple of you. That was kind of fun to watch the transition in that one heifer, at least while we're horseback. Get on foot, she kind of gets her head up in the air again, but she can get used to that too. But I don't know, sometimes these cattle have a little bit of, she may have a little eyesight issues. She doesn't focus real well. So anytime she sees something, she's really trying to focus in on it. And she may just be snorty, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that might be it. I think her eyes are pretty good.
She can see a long way. She may not be able to tell what it is, but she can sure see something moving.
But this is a good example of how, so many folks will hear this a lot. Like, well, she should just go to the sale barn. And that might be. I'm not saying that she shouldn't, but she might be the best producing cow in here. And if you send her to the sale barn, you're sending away quite a bit of money. But if you can change her and fix her, just like this might be a horse that's the sorriest horse in the bunch, but if somebody's handy enough to fix her, you've just created something of value that's something good. And I'm not saying that that's wrong to say that she should go to the sale barn, but I'm not saying it's always right either. and don't just give up.
Yeah.
Fix it, change it.
We have a tendency to sell issues rather than try to fix it. And I think we actually are breeding our cattle maybe to be a little bit too dumb and too gentle. I honestly do, because anything that even acts like a mother cow, we tend to sell. We don't want them fussing up at us and trying to butt us. Well, that's their job, to protect the calf. And so when we have a bunch of Brahman influenced cattle, we can't get that picky sometimes, because that's what their job is and what they want to do. But we can get them to where they'll respect us and respect our position, and we can still work them because they're very intelligent kind of cattle. So like I've had one heifer that I sold because I could not fix her. And I tried for 2 years, and I wasn't smart enough to get it fixed. So I just finally give up. And unfortunately, she was the best looking heifer I had. So somebody really thought they got a bargain when they got her. I'd have loved to see where she went. All right, what do we need to do?
Well, I guess we better put them through the chute.
Might as well. We'll start there, and then if we need to settle them back down, we can do that at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's something we talked about in earlier sessions, but these cattle like this, they may get a little stirred up as we come through the chute. But then your next thing is and that's something I grew up, we always did. When we left the corrals, we took cattle back to the pasture, put them on water, and settled them. We never just kicked something out and let it go. And that somebody led the front so they didn't get to running too much when they left. So we were talking about leading cattle earlier, but that's all we ever did. So we always took them back, paired them up, settled them down if they were cow-calf pairs. And any kind of weaned cattle, we really spent a lot of time doing that so they didn't get trotty and didn't think they could run off from you. And most of you probably do that, but if you don't, you run cattle out of your pen. And I said, a lot of people in our part of the world have their chute open right out into the pasture. To me, that's not the best thing to do, because you need to be able to keep those cattle where you can control that attitude once they leave, and not let that be the last thing and the only thing they remember leaving there. My opinion.
Let's walk her out.
Okay.
Just let her walk out and just walk her back in, just for the fun of it. See how she left that time. It was quite a little different than the before.
Yeah. Last time it was pretty fast for a ways. She would leave. But she also knows she has some comfort back in these other cattle. She doesn't like the pressure. I'm going to see if she'll just come in between me and that chute. She may not. May need to come around me.
She'll come in between you.
But I can sit here and hold the rest of these cattle, and I may actually move just a little bit to release her. See, when I move, that give her enough release to come around that chute. And that's how sensitive they are to position. I just move my horse's head just enough to give her room. And she picked that up. That's kind of sweet.
Isn't that nice? If you saw her before, the change that she made, that's really nice. That's what I really like about this, thinking about this way. So
Yeah.
good. And I think if you have cows at home like that, you might just try some of that stuff. Like I have a friend up here that's a good dog man, John, and you know, if you have something like that, so many people with dogs, they'll have their dog attack that thing. But I think, and you have a real soft dog that you can control and put the amount of pressure it needs, and you can do the same exact thing with a dog or whatever. But it's the amount of pressure you put on that thing. And if you go out there and yaw it and gonna go rope it and bring it back, you're not gonna fix much.
No.
You're gonna make it worse.
I think Todd and them were saying this light red heifer in here was also one that kind of rearranged the furniture this morning. She's been real nice to work this afternoon. Hadn't been a problem at all. But apparently she hit the system and scooted it a good ways somewhere this morning. Bloodied her nose up a little bit, but she's actually been really good to work. She pays attention, no doubt about it, but it's not a problem. Now, I'm just going to ease in here, Curt, and send them out.
Sure.
Earlier, we were actually going to the outside and working from the outside because they really couldn't take that much pressure. So I'm going to try to get her to ease out again without getting too fast. And if these others get too fast, I may back up and try to slow them down a little bit. These two girls found something else to scratch on.
Maybe we'll just leave her right there. She'd be a good draw.
She would be a good draw.
So I was just talking to Tim LaBerg from Working Ranch Magazine, and we were talking about he's worked up in the BC and Nevada and everywhere, and he said, but the real big advantage is he worked in some feed yards for a few years. And for you young folks in this audience, I think you need to figure out all different spots in this industry and go work in them just a little bit and figure out what you need to do to prepare the animal for the next spot. So many of us have never even been to a feed yard or a processing barn and don't understand what they're doing. But this little setup that we're going into here, we're going to come into a sort of a bud box. But I like this deal that Ron's going into there, and I hope those cattle go up into there, because they're going to have to go in there and then come back, and he's going to prepare them for the bud box right here. So anytime you're trying to create flow, when cattle can go somewhere and learn to come back by you, I think that's a big, big advantage on how to do things there. Now, I'm going to open this chute up. I'll try to open it and hold it open. And I think with this situation here, what we can do, Ron, to create the best flow is you bring them and you put them at that gate there and shut it, and I'll try to work them from the outside. We'll see if that works. Is that okay with you?
Yes, sir.
All right. And we'll just try to see if we can get this thing to work without even getting off a horse, and we'll just flow these cattle up through here and kind of teach them to go.
I'm gonna try to pinch a few of them off, not my knee. Wind up getting a little too many in there in this box. I've not actually used this one yet.
Depends on the outside, it shouldn't make quite as much difference.
You gonna work them from there?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
All right, so I'll let Ron get, and we can kind of both work this deal together. We don't have a lot of flow with these cattle. I mean, they didn't come in here very fast. We got this little corner here. We'll see if I can just do enough to flow them right up out of here. If I can get stepped up there, now I can just step back and draw this next one in. Step forward.
I may back her up, I don't know.
I'll see if I can send these two. As soon as these guys commit there, I'll just turn right around and try to send this one here. Might have to step off my horse.
Yeah, I'm gonna back her up.
Yeah, I'll do that. So they came in real slow.
Yep.
And that's how they're gonna go out. And this heifer, I didn't know she was in here. I thought she was still back somewhere, or I wouldn't have got off my horse. Now she'll make it out of there now.
I have to be careful. If I do much over here at all, she's going to look at me, so I'm going to try to be still till she finds it. We were talking about the cattle come in slow. It's one good we can talk about. There's a transition in surface right there. If you're going somewhere and you've got either a shadow or some transition, you may very well slow your flow down. And that's not what you want to try to do. And so try to keep this where it works as easy as possible. I'll try to build a little more speed in these where that transition is not as big a deal to them. So I may have to add a little bit of noise, but I'll try to send them in where they'll be looking. Seeing as I put more pressure and got my pressure right, that was not a big deal at all. So now Curt can pick them up.
They never did hit the end.
No, they did not.
So I'll just step down there and work them afoot.
Because if you'd like for them to go to the end, so they have to turn and transition back out of there. That'd hurt. That would hurt.
Yeah, that would have really hurt. So
but as we brought them in with more speed, they still, even though they didn't go to the end and flow back, they come out with more speed, in part by the way I put them in there. So it's kind of interesting to watch how that works. A lot of people won't train cattle to their system like that, but you really, if you're keeping replacement heifers or something, go ahead and spend some time letting them through, at least part of them, I always tell everybody, if you got a bunch of cattle, you may not be able to let them all go through sometime, but if you let part of them, the next time you mix them together, they actually will flow through there better. They create that draw and flow because they have been through it before.
I'll get the gate for you.
What do you want to do with them this time?
Let's put them back through again and see what happens. Try to create a little.
Once they actually figure this system out, it really doesn't take but about 2 trips through there, and they really know how to get in and out. And like Curt said, this first time they went in here, but this is a good place to get them to return. Put a little pressure on them, and then I can actually sort off however many I want to bring. This whole return box deal actually works pretty good, whether it be the end of an alley or not. I got them to the end. See if old Spook will come back out this time. Now, she figured this deal out, and she's always looking for a hole. So that made that a whole lot easier once they figure out the system.
So that was a lot better flow.
Now I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on them because I do want movement, and it's not going to be slow coming. So once again, I want them to go ahead and move.
You want to come in?
Sir?
That's all right.
You want me to go in with them?
Oh, that's all right. It's too late. I should have self-taught that earlier.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah. I'll have to get off and get on the foot again.
These are gentle enough. They don't, if they're wilder cattle, you can work them from the outside real easy. But if they're not, they need a little more pressure than you can give them there.
But what this caused me have to get too far down behind them. Now I'm really not working the bud box right. I should be way up there.
But because the cattle respond to, they still didn't all jam up in there. And we see a lot of people get in the back of a box and they'll really just push all the cattle to this end. And that is not what you want to do. All right. They always say if you run cattle through the chute, they'll shrink 2 to 5%. We can do this enough, they'll disappear here today.
All right, then this time, go ahead in with horseback. I think it'll be a lot better.
Because these cattle are working so nice and we've got them ready, we can put more pressure, we can put more speed into the system. I got too close, that's my bad. I should have been out here doing what I'm supposed to do. Now I kind of messed up there and I created all this mess we got to deal with now. I got come down their side, stopped their flow, got in behind them, drew the rye out away from the fence. That was all my fault right there.
But our white-faced heifer, the white spot heifer, she's staying with them.
Yep.
She's pushing her way through them.
It's really interesting to watch the difference in these cattle already.
I'll get you, Pate. That's perfect. That's a good number.
No.
Ah, see?
The smart ones figured it out real quick. Well, my biggest thing is stay out of the way right now. Let's see if I can push his eye in there and get him to go.
So that's pretty good flow there.
That's pretty good flow.
Can't get him to the back of the box. So
And
for this setup, we probably, if we were catching cattle, not just run them straight through, probably 4 head would be enough of these cattle. Would you say, Ron? 4 or 5, maybe the small ones if there's some small ones in there.
Now, I had to make them go past the opening that time just so I could show you how we'd do it. And there's a couple of ways to do this. You can either ride your horse in to the corner. Curt, I think you like backing in.
It depends on how they go in.
But
yeah, sometimes I turn around and back in so I can run the flow of my horse's head.
you can use your head or you can use your, and this is something, you can get out of position as well. This, I actually would probably been better going the other way, but I can use my horse's butt, and some cowboys just cannot make themselves do that. But I can ride at him, back my horse up, use him to draw him out of the corner. Now, it's actually a little easier to see what you have going on if you're turned this way and facing them. But you can do it either way. When stiff as my neck is getting, I need to turn my horse around, back him into him so I can watch what's happening. But you can see how you can use your horse's butt, move it around, and actually draw an eye out of a corner or whatever you need to do.
That's one advantage I forgot to say about the horse the other day is you've really got 3 points of pressure with a horse. You've got his head, and he'll pin his ears and look at him and he'll drive. You got your leg, you can use the leg part of the horse to send cattle, and then you got the tail. And I think, you know, so many of us are so afraid to turn our horse's butt to a cow sometimes because we've all been taught never turn your horse's butt to a cow, but you're really missing an opportunity, especially in the box or an alley or something. You can back a horse into a cow or an animal and it'll really create a good flow. So you might be missing a little bit something if you always follow traditions.
You'll run them back through and let me catch them in the chute?
Yeah.
Talk about flow that way?
Let's do that.
I better shut the head gate or they may beat us out.
Let's see if we can't do something a little different here. Let's see if we can leave those calves
All right.
and bring our yearlings. Down or not, but I can kind of maybe get some of them sorted off here. Don't want to get too far forward or get to turn my white face back. But some of these smaller calves might get kind of scrunched in there, so we'll see if we can't get them sorted off before we go in. I'll go ahead.
It's gonna be interesting to see how many of them go down there and get in the chute.
So here I'll try to, and again, I can maybe
Now, I would like for her to be a little bit calmer than that. But she is who she is. If this one won't step in, I can, if a big one comes, helps you pull the right handle. I hadn't worked this chute in a while either, Curt, apparently. He thought he had me not looking. But when you do that and you can get in and do your process, what we talked about earlier, what I would like to do, I hadn't thought about this. They can back out of here. If you've got the opportunity to do so, leave one in the chute until he gets ready to send some more. And that can kind of help create your draw and your flow. I'm gonna let this one, oh, didn't work. I thought he'd back up. And I'm always gonna try to leave that head gate up. One thing I like about this little chute, I can step in here behind this fan gate in the back, and that's my louver. They won't even see me till they get close. They've got all the alleyway to come this far. Whoa.
I'll do a little horse trade in here as well. He doesn't like to back into them cattle.
He's really nervous around cattle. He was in another session too. He wouldn't hardly go in and let them come by him. But as they get closer, I'm gonna start slowing it down. And I can step in here. I'll just do it like we might do it at home. I can put a pole in here.
You notice he was in behind the pole when he put that in there.
Yeah.
Not in front of it.
Yeah, if you don't know that, when the first time you get hit in the belly, you'll figure it out. All right, so now then, this is where we kind of create flow. I may let Curt get pretty close with those cattle. And then I can let this one go, this one in. So now I've got an issue here, but I can step down their side. Didn't come out far enough. Now, we'll talk just a little bit about moving cattle up the alleyway. Notice I try to come out a little bit as we come around there and get through processing this heifer. I can step down her side just a little. She won't come. I'm gonna set my self-catch and use it. That's what I like about the self-catch on these. And I can step down her side, put enough pressure. I'm getting over anxious here. All right, get them caught, get them quiet, get them processed. See if short stuff will come in. All right, but this is where we talk about creating flow, and if Curt's coming in, if he's stepping down that side, she'll step forward, and I don't have to. One reason I'm stopping them before they hammer their shoulders in there, there's lymph nodes in the front of the shoulder. If you bruise them, they won't process vaccines correctly, infections, whatever. So you actually destroy their lymph nodes for the time when you really need them to be working. But to me, that's not slow. These cattle work pretty easy.
How about a hand for his chute running ability? Yeah. That's cool.
I didn't miss one anyway.
Oh, I haven't seen you miss one.
I have.
I know. I just trying to be nice.
But
that's very good, and he knows how to create flow in a manual chute or hydraulic chute. The way he release and open that tailgate is so important for flow of cattle that are already in there.
And part of these, some chutes are a little better at that than the others. This one really you can work from one spot, and it allows you to, once again, that actually comes out and kind of blocks you, so it kind of gets them started a lot of times following that other one. And even if it's really bad, you can actually set around here on this chute with a head gate open. As one of them's coming, you can step down their side and actually close it that way. So there's a lot of different ways to make these chutes work. You just got to figure out what creates that draw and flow through the system.
If you don't have confidence in catching them, it really slows the flow down.
Yeah.
You're overdoing it all the time.
Well, and I got doing that. I was jerking it a little too quick than I probably should have. Trying not to miss one. But
it's not so bad missing one at home, but missing one in front of a couple of 50, 75, 100 people is really not very fun.
No, it's not. But anyway, that's what we're talking about in creating flow. And a lot of people see what we do out here and think it's really too slow. I'm not going to do that at home. But when we get cattle to work like that, it gets real snappy here. And that's why the flow is so important. And if you just have, you had 100 head of heifers, here's something I talk about a lot of times. If when you get ready to work cattle, most of the time your vaccine's not ready. You got to mix vaccines, get everything ready. And there's people standing around, there's cattle in the chute a lot of times. Just let those cattle run through and mix back with the rest of them. And that way you've created some that know how to get through that system without anything happening to them. And then when you are ready with your vaccine, all you gotta do is close the head gate and start. And so it's really easy to do some of this. If you actually think outside the box and outside the norm, you can do a lot of these training exercises we talk about without interrupting your day.
Ron or Curt, quick question for you. So we had kind of the opposite situation here, what the question was. So you had that heifer that was really broke horseback, and then you got on foot, and she had that large flight zone and was real sensitive. What about the opposite case, where you've got, let's say, a bull that you bought, you know, as a producer, that very respectful on the ground, but gets on a horse and has no respect? What are some tips for kind of dealing with that, for kind of softening them up there?
I'll tell you what I do. I don't know if it's right or not, because that's a very dangerous thing sometimes to talk about what you do on a bull. But we carry a rope, hardly ever use one, but if I have a bull that kind of faces up on me, I may actually, if he won't move off pressure, I'll try different angles. But I'll actually throw a rope at him. If he jumps, I'll leave him alone. And so I can teach one to bounce off of me a little bit without anything aggressive, but I do that quite often on new bulls because they're territorial. And Curt we've never talked about this, but I do it all the time, and it works fairly well for me. Just chunk a few coils in his face, and somebody don't like doing it because the knot could hit him in the eye, but if he's gonna run over me, I don't care, kind of deal. Might as well, I do care, but.
Yeah, I just think that's probably a more common situation we run into. You know, bulls coming from outside, that's a lot of times the only source of outside cattle, and they may have been handled differently or whatever when we get them.
We normally have quite a bit of issues with bulls that have not been worked horseback. When they get there, they don't know what they are, and so they kind of bow up to them trying to get their territory established. And so you kind of have to break that a little bit, but I'd love to hear what Curt would say and do too. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot same as the horsemanship. With a bull most bulls are bigger and stiffer and heavier than cows. And when you put pressure on them and you just keep putting pressure on them, they get tired of it, and that's when they start fighting back. So you got to really, with bulls, when you ask them to do something and they respond, even if they think about it, you got to take a little bit of that pressure off, and they'll really learn to work for you.
Yep.
But if you just keep hitting them, bam, 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 pretty soon they're either in the brush or they're on the fight.
And that's why
dairy bulls, you know, I've heard all my life, dairy bulls are so dangerous, and they are. But you think about it, so a dairy calf, you go up, you feed it, it looks at you both eyes, it eats, and you turn and walk away, and it follows you. It chases you away. Well, that's all fine and good, and then at some point, those bulls, you go up, feed them, you walk away, and then you walk through the dairy parlor or the barn, and those bulls are looking at you and walking at you. You're asking them to hunt you. Any animal, you've got to have, I like animals to come to me, but you've got to have the same amount of pressure to get those animals to turn around and walk away. If you don't have that balance with your cows, your horses, your bulls, things are out of balance. And that's why if you call cattle for feed all the time, you're creating a non-balance. What it takes to bring cattle to you, you got to have the same balance to send them away. And that's with bulls, it's a real fine line there that you got to get to. So, I mean, like my horse, it takes the same amount of pressure to get him to go as it wants to stop and back up. My horse is in balance. Same thing with your bulls or cows or kids.
Yeah, the whole deal with the bull, if I do throw something at them or whatever, as soon as they move, I don't do anything else. And that I try to let that be the first lesson. Anytime we're feeding bulls, I don't know if any of y'all use trip hopper feeders or something like that. Those old bulls will come up around you. I always try to make them move off of me just to learn. Don't ever let them kind of push against you because they can develop some bad habits pretty quick. And I see a lot of people sometimes that have some issues with, they like to scratch a bull on the head. I don't understand that. Don't do that. Don't teach that animal to push against you or brace against you, but I see a lot of people that have an old pet bull And most people you hear about getting killed are by somebody's pet bull. And they get too close to them and get too comfortable with them, and if you don't feed the cubes when they want to, or they're just in a bad mood. I think it was 2 years ago, I actually did a little search on the internet. There were 6 guys that were either killed or maimed by bulls that were known as family pets. And very gentle bull. That was a gentle bull kills owner. Well, don't be that person. Don't let that become part of what you do with bulls. You got to teach them to respect you and maintain that respect all the time.
They were probably mad because you called them a pet. That's degrading to the animal.
That is
degrading. If you called them a
degrading.
companion animal, it would have made them feel better. That's the new Pate thing, by the way.
We'll go with that, yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, anything else? Doesn't have to pertain to this session either, if you got something else.
This has really been fun the last 2 days. Really, really good. Really good cattle work and nice horses to ride. Good folks to present to. And so, you know, we've spent the year with Merck, and they stepped up, sponsored the stock and ship and stewardship program, and my wife and I have a special feeling towards Merck because we're kind of big believers in prayers and panic here, and if you know that story, that's the deal. So anyway, we're really proud to be a part of Merck and the stock and ship and stewardship program, and hopefully we'll see you down the road next year at the stock and ship and stewardship event.
Before we get completely away on the Merck deal, if you want a stockmanship event in your area, you can contact NCBA or state affiliate, and they can get Curt or I or Dean or Todd or whoever's available to come do stockmanship trainings for you. There's a little bit of a cost share on some of those, and then the big regional events that Merck is involved in is something we're real proud of, and we put on all across the country. But we do a lot of other smaller events, so if you're interested, you can contact us or contact NCBA and try to get those done.
The future cattleman just came through. Nice, there you go. I've been really, really happy to see so many young people at this convention. It's really, really great. Really nice. I'm really happy with that.
Yep. And Curt made the comment earlier about trying to figure out where you can fit. There's one place we're having a lot of trouble finding help is people to work stock. And so if you have an interest in this, I think it's going to be an area as we progress and go in feedlots, preconditioning operations, and even cow-calf, where we need good stock people. And so look for those opportunities. It may be a little more labor intensive than some of you want to start with, but it is really good to go ahead and get yourself trained and get good at this where you can make a positive impact on the company, yourself, and the cattle that you're working. So keep this in mind. A lot of opportunities in the stock side of it, and we're running out of people to do it.
Thank you both, Ron and Curt. Let's give them a big round of applause.